Hi, I'm Kirk.
And I'm Jenny.
And this is Chit Chat with Kirk and Jenny.
Thank you for joining us. I'm Kirk. I'm here with Jenny. And of course, we're masked. We're here. It's pandemic time. So we're being as safe as possible, social distancing and wearing our masks. But the reason that we're doing these Chit Chats is because phone's been ringing off the hook here with people interested in talking to us about giving to the community through their estate plan, in their will. And that's really a result of the pandemic. So why not have these conversations, demystify the whole process, and just help people understand what it's all about.
Exactly.
So Jenny, we're going to have a chit chat.
Yeah.
Tell me a little bit about you. What's your role here at the foundation?
So I am the philanthropic services manager, which basically is a long way of saying that I get to work with all of the plan giving folks, people who are thinking about what their long-term giving is going to be like, things that are happening even after they're no longer with us, what their legacy is going to look like, which is frankly the best job in the world to be able to do that.
So legacy, we talk about that a lot.
Mm-hmm.
And that can mean a lot of different things to a lot of different people.
Creating your legacy is not something that's scary. It's something that really captures who it is you want to leave this world with as your mark, how you want to be remembered, what is important to you now that you want to have continue after you're no longer necessarily here to be able to make that happen.
So how does the foundation even play a role in that?
We work with you to map out your philanthropy after you're no longer here. So we'll take your assets from your estate plan or your estate gift, and we put them into a fund.
I have to call the jargon police,
Sure.
Put the red flag in the air for a second. So legacy, fund, estate plan, what is all that? It sounds kind of like a bank, but I know this is not a bank.
No, it's a legacy gift, an estate gift, a plan gift is something that you would create through your will with your attorney. But then you would work with us to actually figure out what the purpose of that gift is. What is your passion? What is it? What's important to you? What do you want to see transpire after you're no longer here?
So I'm betting this is a question that a lot of people are going to have. So I've done well in my life. I have assets. I put the foundation in my will, and I pass away. Mm-hmm. I've worked with the foundation to put in place the plan that you just talked about of the things that I care about most, where I want the money to go. Mm-hmm. So what happens at that point? I mean, I'm gone. It's out of my hands. How do I know what the foundation is going to be doing in my name?
Sure. So what we'll do is at that point, we will reference your testamentary agreement, which sounds a lot scarier than it is. It is essentially a roadmap to your estate plan. And that is to what your philanthropy is going to look like, what your giving is going to look like. So it's nothing it's just a formal name for something that is actually really easy and more of a dialogue than anything else. So we will reference your plan at that point and create a fund in your name, which is essentially a philanthropic checking account.
So if I say care about families mm-hmm. and want to help struggling families put food on the table, I would have talked to you about that in advance. It would be in my agreement with mm-hmm. the foundation. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, I'd pass away, the assets are transferred to the foundation, it goes into the Kirk Engelhardt Fund to help struggling families, mm-hmm. and what happens then?
So at that point, what we'll do is we then take those assets, they're invested in our endowment pool, which again sounds really formal. It is just those assets are taken and into a savings account, more or less. And that it earns interest and is invested by our investment team. And we will take the distributions from those investments and then deploy them into the community as you specified in your testamentary agreement, because we know exactly what your plan was. We are working on your behalf mm-hmm. to make sure that your wishes are honored.
Tell me about some people who have gone through this already.
So we have, I had the wonderful luck to be able to work with a couple last year who loved puppies, ironically. They have rescue dogs. They've always had rescue dogs. They've made Broward their home for the last 10 years. They moved here from Washington, D.C. about 10 years ago. They've been in this community, they've been a part of this community, and they want to make a difference in this community. But they have some things that they care about. Puppies is one of them. Struggling families is another one. We were able to take their interests, map that out for them so that when their estate matures, as we say, that we are able to deploy their resources back into the community in perpetuity, so forever and ever, every year, there will be grants made on their behalf to organizations supporting exactly what it was that was important to them.
So let me pop a couple of names on this. So just as an example, Bob and Mary Smith, right? So if Bob and Mary Smith, they come to you in advance, you know, and have a conversation, get to know you, get to know the foundation, and on paper put down the things that they care about most. Animals, environment, struggling families.
All of that.
And then Bob and Mary Smith are no longer with us at some point. Through their will, their assets that they've allocated transfer to the foundation, and they go into that fund that has already been structured for them according to their wishes, right? And then the foundation does what?
So the best thing is that we've already had this conversation, as you say, with them. We know exactly what their intentions are, and we're able to take that and be able to honor their legacy. We take that very seriously because these are their assets. This is their impact in the community. We are just simply the stewards of it. And we're grateful to be part of that. These are, we look at these folks like extended members of our family. And so we're able to take their assets, invest them, and then make distributions annually. Every single year, their assets will be distributed. The distributions from their assets will be sent out and deployed into the community to target exactly the issues that were important to them.
So every year, and this is from my position in marketing and communications at the foundation, when we talk about the different stories and the impact that's being had in the community through these grants, we often credit the fund holders and the funds. So, and a lot of those folks are folks that are not here anymore.
Exactly.
And, we are sending out grants, say, in the name of Bob and Mary Smith, and from the Bob and Mary Smith Fund.
Exactly.
And Bob and Mary Smith could have passed on 10, 20, 30 years ago. And they're still having an impact today.
Absolutely. So, their impact is not one gift, one time to one purpose. And again, the couple that I worked with last year who loved puppies and loved Broward, they wanted to make sure that their estate was not going to just give one gift to one organization for one time only, and then their legacy would end there. This keeps their legacy alive forever.
So Bob and Mary Smith have $1 million that they left in their will, and they're going to give it one time to one organization. Okay, that's the non-community foundation way of doing it. That one organization gets the $1 million, could help them, but at some point that money's gone, and that organization will not benefit from it anymore.
No.
Right? Now the foundation route, where we talk about forever, is a little bit different.
Sure.
The $1 million goes into an endowed fund. That endowed fund is then invested, and money is made through the stock market and through the different investment options that we have. Let's just say that $1 million makes 7%, right? And the grants that we give out each year from that fund are 5%. That the next year you're going to have that extra 2% on top of the principal, so your 5% is going to be even more, and that goes on forever. It compounds over and over and over and over, right?
Exactly.
So what you're telling me is that the impact that a person has through a fund at the foundation actually gets bigger over time. Is that
exactly? That's exactly what happens. So your fund will, instead of just making one gift to an organization, by creating a fund with the community foundation, your gift will be made every single year forever. It won't. It's not necessarily that one large chunk, but it is reliable resources, which really, that's how you affect change in a community for an issue, for the puppies that are relying on that money every year.
Well, it's true. If you think about it, any big issue, any significant issue in our community or in any community, it's not a one-year issue. It's not a one-time issue. One donation, one gift isn't going to make a hill of beans difference
Sure.
in solving an issue. Now, could it help move the needle a little bit? Yes. But if you really want to affect change, like real change, the type of change where you solve the problem and the issue doesn't exist anymore, it takes sustained resources to do that year after year after year. And through an endowed fund at the foundation, your favorite organization would be able to actually put in their budget as a line item the grant coming from the foundation to that organization in your name. And they can count on it year after year, which means they can hire people. They can take out loans and they know that the money's going to be there to be able to pay the loan back. There's a lot of different things that they can do and plan and actually affect real change as a result. I mean, it just sounds like magic to me.
It is, and it is, I mean, it's not magic, but it feels like magic in a lot of ways. And I think the important thing to remember is that it's helping to create programs, helping to create systems, helping to create the actual impetus and giving organizations the tools to create the change that needs to happen to fix these issues, which is why it was important in the first place.
Okay, I'm going to place a bet here, Jenny. I'm going to bet that there are people out there who don't necessarily have a particular organization that they're interested in giving to, but they have maybe an issue that they care about, like, say, cancer research.
Absolutely.
If somebody who cares about cancer research and wants to have an impact in cancer research doesn't necessarily know where the best research is happening or even how to invest in it, and give a gift that would be meaningful. So let's talk about that. What if I just care about an issue?
What if you care about an issue? Well, the great thing about that is that we have our eyes and ears in the community, and we know who is doing the good research. We know who is making the biggest impact on things. And to be honest, it changes from year to year. It's not the same organization every single time. So with creating what we call a field of interest fund, so supporting something that is important to you, but it's not narrowed down to one particular organization. It is, just as it's called, a field of interest. So if you're interested in cancer research, if you're interested in environmental issues, you can narrow down your giving to a particular area without narrowing it so far that it's to a particular organization, thereby allowing your philanthropy to be at the cutting edge of that particular issue.
So Jenny, what you just said makes me think of something that's really important to bring out here for everybody who's watching. The fact that you're not alone, you're not giving by yourself, right?
Exactly.
Like, because I've heard people come into the foundation and say, well, I don't have millions and millions and millions of dollars. I mean, how is my small, multiple $1,000 gift going to have an impact on an issue or an organization? But the reality is, it's not just them, especially with field of interest. They're paired up with other people,
Exactly.
and other fund holders, other donors who have the same issue that they care about. Is that how many times have you seen that happen?
It happens all the time. So it's not just your gift. It's not even just one gift one time to one purpose. It is multiple gifts from multiple people making an impact collectively, pushing that needle just a bit forward every single time. And instead of your gift going in to support just a little bit, it is part of a movement to affect real change on that particular issue.
So if my fund isn't a gigantic fund, a relatively small fund, maybe puts out a grant of $10,000 a year to support a particular issue. There are other fund holders who have funds in varying sizes that are also putting out, awarding grants from their funds, in all different sizes. So you could have 250, 300, that you could have a huge investment towards solving a particular issue in the community when you put these philanthropists together. It really is, it's amplification of the impact.
Yeah, stacking your philanthropy with others makes it an even bigger impact than what your single impact would be, which is really a collective thing. As a citizen of Broward County, as a citizen of the world, isn't that really what we want to do? We want to work together. One person can't fix it on their own.
So when it comes to, just say, cancer research, for example, are there any examples of people out there or people that you've worked with who have focused on that particular area? And how did that all come together? How does it work?
So I've worked with a couple that they have had cancer in their lives, and it is a very important issue to them, obviously, as it is to a lot of other people in the world right now. So they are able to target their money, their assets, after their estate matures. They're able to make a large gift to cancer research. They've specified the kind of research that they're thinking of, but they've given us a lot of flexibility to be able to address whatever current needs there are. And wouldn't it be wonderful if at some point cancer were cured? If all of this great work, I mean, the whole point of this is to really eliminate cancer. So their fund has a clause in it that if for some reason cancer is eliminated, what kind of medical research they want their assets to support at that point. Because just because cancer is cured doesn't mean that their philanthropy needs to end.
So what happens? I mean, does the money just doesn't sit in an account?
No, because the whole point of partnering with the community foundation is to get your assets out in the community, keep on making your impact. By working with us, working with this couple, I've been able to help them shape what the goal is to cure cancer. And once cancer is cured, because they're very hopeful that it will be as part of their philanthropic plan, then they want it to go to support other kinds of medical research.
The example that I've heard used is polio, right? So let's say that years ago, somebody set up a fund to tackle polio. And guess what? Polio is cured.
Yes.
It's no more. You know, you don't need those grants going to polio organizations anymore.
Correct.
So who makes the decision? What happens next?
So at that point, we would use what we call variance power. I know it sounds like a term that's a little bit more technical, but it allows the foundation to deploy your resources if that issue no longer exists, if polio doesn't exist, if cancer doesn't exist. It still creates an opportunity for your resources to go out into the community, which is really the whole point of partnering with us in the first place.
So let's just say cancer's cured. We're able to go to the board of directors and recommend that that particular fund that was originally set up for curing cancer be redirected.
Exactly. Again, knowing the donor's intention, that's really our whole goal, is to capture the donor intention, to commit that to what assets are available to be able to target different issues that are important in the community that are in line with what the donor intended to do in the first place.
And what's interesting about this is that this happens whether this is a living donor, right? Because, you know, we do set up funds for living donors.
Absolutely.
Aside from the estate plans like you and I are talking about now. But, you know, we do that for living donors who have a field of interest fund, and we also do it for folks who have passed away, who we're minding
minding the store.
minding the store for them, you know, on their behalf. They don't have people, you know, who are taking care of this, you know, outside of the foundation. That's what we're here for. We're here to make sure that we are their eyes and ears when they're not here to do it themselves.
Well, and that's the whole point of having a foundation be your steward for your philanthropy, because these funds are permanent, because this is a permanent thing. It's not going anywhere. This is forever. Life will change. I mean, you know, 5 years ago, did we ever know that we'd be in the middle of a pandemic and wearing masks while we're doing these things? We've got to have the flexibility to be adaptable and to really, again, capture donor intention, but meld that with what is current in the community.
What you just said about the pandemic makes me think of another fund that we recently talked about, the Urbanic Fund. Augie Urbanic, a very, very well-known person in the community, you know, for many, many years. Before he passed away, had the intention to set up a fund here at the foundation. And that fund was an endowed fund for emergency response. Now, of course, at the time, everybody was thinking it was because of hurricanes. We've got to have this emergency response fund because we're going to get hammered with storm after storm after storm. And yes, it still may happen. It has happened before. It'll happen again. But what he didn't predict was COVID-19, was the pandemic. And that fund was here. Those resources were ready to be deployed when our community absolutely, positively needed it most. And what he set it up for was emergency response. And has there been an emergency quite like this ever in our lifetime? You know, this is just the fact that, you know, he thought ahead. And even though he's not here to see it, his family is able to see it. And the community knows that he, and through us and our fund that has his name on it, that he is involved and has been a part of the response that's changing lives and helping people through this.
Absolutely. We're still speaking of him in present tense. I mean, he passed years ago, but his philanthropy is still very much an active participant in the community. And without his foresight to create something for emergency response, think of all the things that we wouldn't have been able to support in this community that needed it so badly this last year.
I'm betting that there are some people out there thinking right now, I don't have a particular organization in mind that I want to continue to support for eternity. I don't have a particular issue in mind because I care about a lot of things. But one thing that I do really care about is this community. I care about Broward. I care about changing this community for the better, leaving it a better place than it was when I got here, and making sure that my assets are used to enhance the community forever. So if I'm one of those people who just cares about everything and cares about Broward and wants it to be the best, most vibrant place that it could possibly be, what can you do for me?
Absolutely. So there's a lot of things we can do. I actually worked with a gentleman recently who had the same issue. He cared about everything. And he actually said to me when he was trying to narrow down what he wanted his legacy to support, he goes, it's like trying to choose your favorite child. And he really wanted to make sure that he was going to be able to support everything without narrowing it down too much. So he created what we call an unrestricted fund, which sounds a little scary. I get that. But really, it's a fund without limits on it. It will target every issue in the community as opposed to just being limited to one specific area. It allows the foundation the flexibility to deploy your resources to the issue that is most pressing at the time. Again, going back to the current situation that we're in, would we have ever guessed that there would be a need for the outpouring of support that has been needed for the last 6 months, 7 months, 8 months, whatever it's been with the pandemic? An unrestricted fund would allow us to target that issue very specifically without having to find other resources to be able to help.
Let's just say homelessness, which could be a very real outcome of this pandemic.
Absolutely.
And there could be considerable resources that are needed there. We would be able to leverage the resources from unrestricted funds to be able to help with that.
Exactly.
And maybe that problem gets solved, and that's not an issue 5-10 years from now. And then there's another issue that pops up that is significant and huge. Maybe we get hit with a big storm, and there's a lot of problems that come as a result of that. We're able to then take unrestricted funds and be able to tackle that. But it's not just crisis response, right? I mean,
No.
it's all of the issues that matter.
Every
It's
single issue.
from animals to environment to health to cancer research to aging with dignity. I mean, it's all
It's
of
everything. It's the arts. It's everything. Every issue that is important to this community, and they're symbiotic. I mean, one issue touches another issue, touches another issue. If you don't have families that have the economic support that they need, how can you have a workforce that's reliable? How can you have seniors aging in place in the way that they deserve to age? It's if you don't have cancer support, how are you going to have healthy citizens? How are you going to have people that don't have weight-related issues and things like that? So it really, the way an unrestricted fund works is it's almost like a protective blanket for the entire community at once. One of the other things that I've been able to do is we are able to keep your philanthropy nimble, both before your estate matures and after your estate matures. We are able to make changes to your testamentary agreement, which again is just a fancy word for your philanthropic plan. So we are able to make changes to that agreement during your lifetime. If your philanthropy changes, say so many people have had an awakening to some of the issues that are in our community. So, family stability, things like that are happening now as a result of the pandemic. They are able to, I've actually worked with someone who has made a change to her estate plan as a result of the pandemic. She wants to change her philanthropy. We like to say it's not a set it and forget it kind of situation with the foundation. we will work with you because you've created your estate agreement through your attorney that references a testamentary agreement on file with the community foundation. We can change your philanthropic intent like that. It doesn't take a long time. It takes a simple review of the documents. We change some language in there. We add issues, we delete issues, we add a charity, we delete a charity. We make we create an unrestricted fund where there was a few specific areas that you wanted to support. It doesn't take long, but you're not having to go back and undo your estate plan every single time with your attorney on that. You can just leave that part stable and then update your wishes with us as you need it.
Okay, so let's break this down. They pick up the phone and they call you?
Pick up the phone, call me, email me. It's very easy. We have a conversation. We talk about what is important to you now, what aspect of this change is important to you as well, and how we can go ahead and make that part of your permanent philanthropic plan. So it requires just a simple phone call, email. We'll talk about it, we figure it out, and then I go ahead and redraft an agreement, send it over to them for review, and they can sign off on it. We sign off on it here. We have our CEO countersign it, and we place that in their file as the most current amendment to their testamentary agreement. Exactly.
They don't get a bill for that?
Nope, no bill.
No
Nothing.
bill. It's just...
That's just what we do. That's part of the service that we offer, the value add we have as an organization, that you're not having to redo your entire estate plan just because your philanthropy changes. I mean, we all grow and change over time, and our interests change, and things really kind of expand for a lot of people. Bob and Mary, they had no idea that their interest would veer toward supporting struggling families. But that's something that's very important to them now. So let's include that. There's no reason to have to exclude things that are becoming important to you just because you don't want to undo something that you've already signed off on years ago.
Well, and the other part of this is that not only do people change, but the community changes.
I actually work with someone who updates his testamentary agreement every single year, which I wouldn't necessarily do that often. But I think it's important to stay at the forefront of what is important to you, knowing that you're going to change. We set these agreements up, and just because you set it up and it's not going to be in action for 20, 30 years, there's no reason to just leave it there because it's difficult to change. It's an easy process. It's seamless. You get to talk to me more. Mm-hmm. It's a great thing.
So let's talk assets. Assets, mm-hmm. Right? We say your assets will roll into a charitable fund
Sure.
at the foundation. What on God's green earth does that even mean?
Well, it can be a lot of different things. I mean, it's not just cash that can mm-hmm. support your fund, that can seed your fund. We have a couple that has famously told us that they have left us everything right down to the toothbrushes, which is... We don't necessarily have a use for the toothbrushes, but they're talking about everything from their cars to their real estate holdings to their investment accounts to everything that all their worldly goods are coming to the community foundation to support their philanthropy when they're no longer here. So what we do is we take those assets, we work with a team of professionals that really a network. We have a network of people that we work with to liquidate those assets, to turn it into cash so that your philanthropy can be supported through that. But it's not something that you necessarily have to do ahead of time. It's not just cash that we take.
So didn't we have a couple come in here and this was an issue they were having, mm-hmm. right? They didn't have kids. Mm-hmm. They had a lot of assets between the two of them.
Sure.
And they were trying to figure out what happens to this stuff, house, car, everything that they've worked so hard for, bank accounts, stocks.
Exactly.
How do we turn that into community impact that will last forever? It's not something that people just sit at home and go, oh, I think I'll have a community impact that will last forever with my, the assets that I've amassed over the years. People don't know how to do that.
Sure.
Necessarily on their own, so they come to us. What was the deal with this particular couple?
Well, we worked with them. We will work with them to set up an agreement with them so that it will be something that when the time comes, we will contact our network of professionals and liquidate those assets to turn it into dollars that we can then create a fund with mm-hmm. and then can use to support their philanthropy.
So how did that conversation go?
Sure. So this couple came to us. They had worked hard their entire lives. and have a lot of assets, but don't have any one person that they want to leave it to. They want all of their philanthropy to go into the community. The issue that comes with that is they've got things like cars and real estate and investment accounts, things that aren't necessarily cash dollars that come to the community foundation as seamlessly. What we will do is we spoke with them about it and said, don't worry, that when the time comes, we have a network of professionals that we'll work with that will liquidate these assets for you. It's not something that you need to plan for or anything like that. We will work with your professional advisor and make sure that this happens exactly as you want it to.
So when you told them that, what was the reaction?
Relief. So the benefit of partnering with the community foundation is that you don't have to worry about that. That I always feel like we've done our job correctly when people are thanking us at the end of these meetings for taking that burden off of them. That they know that their legacy is going to be protected. They know what's going to happen with it, and that it's not just left out there to someone crossing their fingers and hoping.
Not everybody has somebody, another generation, that they can leave their assets to. You know, I mean, I think I've got kids. My kids could get, you know, what I've amassed over the years. Well, what about folks who don't have kids? Or what about folks who have kids that are already well off on their own and you know, have great stability? And they want for themselves to have that legacy and create that impact. I mean, it seems like we're a good solution in all of those situations.
We are, because we take the intention of the donors. Again, we're all about donor intent. So we take the intention of the donors and really make sure that philanthropy is being supported, whether you have children or not. You know, I know that there are people that have children and they want to take that burden off of their children, to not have their family have to be the ones to manage and steward their legacy. You know, they have families of their own, they have things of their own to manage. So this really is a way to ensure that your legacy is protected and is at the forefront. We're like family to a lot of people, so we want to make sure that continues, and that, you know, your philanthropy is our business. That is what we're supposed to be doing, and that's all we do is look after your intentions.
So family, you've said that word several times, and you know, some people may think, oh gosh, you know, they're talking about family. Everybody talks about family. It's so cliche. Oh yeah, everybody's a family. Well, the reality is we know our fund holders. We have deep conversations with them about what they care about. So we get to know each other. We know our Legacy Society members. You know, we know the professional advisors out there in the community. We actually know the people we work with and support. You know, we have to know them, because how do you shepherd somebody's legacy? How do you make sure that they're remembered the way that they want to be remembered, and have the impact that they want to have if you don't know them? If you treat them as just a number, you just can't do that. That's what makes us different than a lot of other places people could work with.
Exactly.
I mean, when you become part of the foundation, you're part of the fabric of this organization. You know, we're one phone call away, and when we see you at an event, we're asking you about the trip you took, or your kids, or you know, your exercise routine, or you know, if you tried the new restaurant. I mean, it's that type of relationship that we all have here. You become part of something bigger when you join the foundation.
So that's important to remember, though, is we've been here for 36 years. We've been here since 1984. We have over 400 funds at the foundation. We know our people. We say all the time that we like to connect the people who care with the causes that matter, but it's also because we care about these people as well. They become entrenched in our lives, and these are the people that keep us going. We don't do it for any other reason than to do what they have instructed us to do and to honor what their amazing commitment to the community has been.
I always tell people it's about our commitment to the community. It's about our commitment to the fund holders and the Legacy Society members and the people who we work with, and the fact that we just love what we do and feel really good about it every single day. Thank you for joining us. I'm Kirk. This is Jenny from the Community Foundation of Broward. Make sure you be bold and be safe. See you soon.